Boy, was I lazy today. Starting late. So late. But showing up is half the battle. Is it not? So I'm gonna do nothing. No, just kidding. I didn't put on my new special bare feet shoes, so I'm just barefoot today. Because I forgot. So I just need to do this. Normally the shortest is probably 10 minutes, maybe 15 really. I like to be done normally by 11 and it's 10:45. Latest 11:15 if I'm not really paying attention, just doing my thing. Normally I count the number of times I do whatever these exercises I'm doing right now are, but I'm not because I'm talking. So I'm just kind of doing them. They're just to loosen all your joints and warm them up a little bit, especially if you want to avoid injuries and you're like, what, you're going to get injured by doing Tai Chi? Well, you can. It can happen if you, depends on how you do it and what you're trying to accomplish with it. Like for me, I'm trying to make it more of a workout, you know, kind of like yoga. So I'll want to, you know, be more flexible and try to get more grounded and lower in my movements. And so that does kind of wear me out at least. I'm out of shape, so getting lower and stuff, and I try to do some workouts too, so, and then that tires me when I do it, then it actually is strenuous for me. I know I'm weak, but I'm here. Right, yeah, so after that lower body stuff, then I do, you know, like my hips, you know, and that's important because I actually had hip pain for quite a while, and probably because I wasn't working out anymore or exercising, and I felt really stiff getting out of bed and just stiff. And believe it or not, this helps. And you should totally do it. As you get older, you feel like your hips are tight, do this. Yeah, so that's that. So you can do a little bit more by doing this and stuff like that. That's why I do this. And then, you know, I do I don't know, this is also my lower back and my waist and stretching my legs by doing this, just hanging over. Eventually trying to get a little lower. My mom told me that in this time of year, it is good to face your back towards the sun for 10 minutes and let yourself sweat. It's kind of like cupping, she said. I've never heard of it before. I mean, heard of doing that before, but apparently it's a thing. And so I'm actually kind of doing that every morning now. And then, yeah, so I did that, and now I want to do like more upper body stuff. So, you know, my arms like this, something like that. Also, I want to work on my shoulders and arms, loosening up those joints, including the elbows, like this, shoulders, in both directions, my neck, from side to side, up and down, up and down. And then once that's done, you know, I shake off a little bit and I try to do some warm-up exercises, which, you know, for some might be like, that's it? But like again, I said, out of shape and I'm weak. So I start with my right leg normally, going like this. This is good for your hip flexors. And because I've had some hip pain and inner thigh crotch pain, I guess. This is one reason why I do these also, and also to strengthen my legs for when I want to go a little bit lower in my Tai Chi. And normally I do like maybe 20 of these. I'm not really counting, so I'm talking. And then I turn over to my side like this. And basically I'm working on hip flexors still, so this is very hip flexory. So this is about 20 of these also, but again, I'm not counting. I'm gonna do like 10 more. That, and then I turn over. Now with my left leg, I do these. This is also for my hippity hips. Hippity hips. Oh wow, these angles are really bad today. Had better angles in my previous videos. Not that anyone's watching them, but again, I should be doing this for you. So, and this is a good way for me to, it's kind of like accountability, like, oh wow, somebody's watching, even though no one's watching. Or, you know, the fact that, oh no, I'm gonna have this posted online, oh no, I better make sure I actually put in the work or whatever. So it's great for accountability for you to slightly push yourself a little bit, even if no one watches. You know, you really, I think it's super important when you're creating content to really be doing it for you first, because otherwise it might not be sustainable if you're doing it for somebody else or doing it for some other reason. Are you really enjoying it? You know, like you might be successful and then that's why it continues, but then over time it might burn you out because you're not really enjoying it and it sucks. And I've learned that lesson myself. So I really try to do things I enjoy, which is why you don't see me doing a lot of videos, because I just haven't figured out what that thing I enjoy that I would want to film would be. And this is the closest thing to it, because I guess I'm just not really good at creating my own content, you know, or coming up with it. And so a lot of the content that I'm going to want to do is all just, I don't know, just what you're going to see, which is just me winging it. Really, a lot of it is going to be like that. Because, yeah, I'm better with collaborating, I guess. It's hot out here. So you're going to see me raining pretty shortly. Because it's really hot. Orlando, Florida. So then I do the other side. Maybe this will actually help me actually get a butt. Because I don't really have much of a butt. A butt. Oh god, hold on, can you hear me saying that? So after I do this little bit here, I'm gonna do one other kind of like a squat type of exercise, I guess, and then I'm gonna get into stretching those muscles, because you know I'm actually not very flexible. I also have horrible balance, despite what many may think, since I am a mover and I like dancing and all that, but really I really have horrible balance. And I'm doing this because you know, I also want to get some sun, and it's really hot. I don't really want to, honestly, I would rather be naked, but you know, probably shouldn't be doing that out here. And so if I left these pockets in, they would come out, you know, and so I take them out. Little bunny ears, super cute, right? I should come out with shorts that are just like this with bunny ears. Shorty, boardy, booty, shorties. Alright, so Yeah, so like I do some kind of squat type of exercise. I try to make sure my knees are over my toes, like so, and I try to be as straight as possible without like leaning over like this, if I can. But sometimes I lean a little because you know you just have to sometimes, like for balance. So I try to get as 90-degree as possible. Because ideally it'd be great if I could just do all my Tai Chi this slow and be like, and have that strength to be able to go shift my weight from one leg to the other and be able to lift the other leg. Now this would be really hard if I were to do it now, because if I put all my weight on my left leg to be able to lift my right, well, I would have to lean like all the way back, and even here I couldn't. But this is all in training, you know, so I probably won't go this low when I do Tai Chi, but if one day I could, awesome, right? So I'm here, and I don't really pay attention to how long I do it here either. I just pay attention to the pain. When it gets a bit much, like if I want to count, I'd probably like, oh, 20 or 30 or something like that. Normally it's between 20 and 30. If I'm really looking to do it quickly or lazy, might do 12 seconds. But then, you know, I'll do a couple of these if I'm starting to feel some pain. And I also notice that I don't want to overdo it, because when I go to do my Tai Chi, my legs are completely worn, and it actually makes it harder. Which in some cases, or like in the future, I wouldn't mind it being harder. But I want to make that gradual, because I think one thing that's important about any kind of exercise and practice is to, you don't necessarily have to kick your ass at the very beginning when you start. You only kick your ass when you want to kick your ass, and that's fine. I think the whole point is doing it for you, and you want to make sure you want to come back and do come back. So if you make it too hard, you're just going to remember how much it sucked, and then you're not going to want to do it. But it's the times that you want to come back and push yourself. That's great. So until you do that, don't make it too hard, because you're going to come back. And so yeah, I also want to make sure I come back and don't quit by making it too hard. So you push a little to where you want, and you continue. And you know what? Over days, over weeks, over months of continuing, because you didn't make it suck so bad, you will get stronger, and you'll be like, oh, this is too easy, and you're gonna push yourself, and you will gradually get better. It's not a race or a competition, it's for you. So do it at your own pace. So even if you're copying me, adjust to whatever you want. I mean, I'm just doing this for me. So practice with me. So yeah, I do stuff like that, and I might, you know, do some more on each leg in each direction as well. And then again, like I said, after that, then I would do some stretching. Alright, so now I'm doing my right leg. I might want to emphasize putting more weight on the right leg a little bit, make it centered. I don't know, just doing it. And I don't know, left leg, ideally I think I should be starting this at 10:30. The only time I've gone more than half an hour or 45 minutes is when I first started, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And literally the first day I started, I did it for 3 to 4 hours straight, trying to figure out everything, especially more like the moves for the Tai Chi 8 form Yang style that my mom taught me. And I want to make sure I'm doing it the way I'm supposed to, or at least the way I was taught, or the way she does it, or the way I want to do it based on watching some other videos of some really, really good practitioners. And so I wanted to kind of nail down what that was before I just randomly started practicing and just going from my memory and then maybe doing things wrong and then practicing it wrong. And when I say wrong, I just mean not the way I intend to do it, because I imagine there's different ways that people do it, and there probably isn't a right or wrong. There probably is, I mean, like if there was a competition, they probably have very specific markers for what you should and shouldn't be doing. And so there is, to an extent, a right and wrong, but there are variations. I've seen it, lots of variations. Like when I look at my mom and then I look at some other great practitioners, they're not identical. So I'm kind of taking a little bit from all of them that I like. I'm not here to compete, so I'm open to learning other things. If I find that there is a right and wrong to what I'm doing, that's fine. So if you're following along, know that. You know, this is not a definitive of anything really, but it's what I decided I want to do. Okay, what am I doing right now? Yeah, okay. So let's start stretching. So one of the stretches I do is this, and I typically hold it for 30 seconds. Try to put some resistance in it by, you know, pulling and pushing to make sure that I feel the stretch. And like I said, do it for like 30 seconds on each leg. This is also good practice for me too, because I feel like one day I would love to teach, and this is good practice, right? And I don't call this series Learn Tai Chi with Me. It's called Practice Tai Chi with Me. So I'm still learning, and you can learn with me, or if you're already a practitioner and you want to practice with someone, and I'm currently doing the 8 form, you can do it with me, but you don't have to do what I'm doing. You can do what you're doing, but it's still the 8 form, and you can do it together. We might do it slightly different, right? You can do it that way too. Or you can try to copy me as much as possible and do it with me on the daily or whenever, and try to get better on your own, at your own pace. When I first started, I really enjoyed going at my own pace and doing the forms, going super slow, like slower than other people that I've practiced with. Like when I do it with my mom, I want to go so much slower than she does. I want to go so much slower than a lot of people I watch. But now, as I do these exercises, I wear out my legs so much quicker that I actually do it a little faster. But I also want to, you know, be aware of how fast I am moving because I'm getting tired versus going that fast because it feels more like an organic way of doing it. So I want to try to bridge that gap and not be one way or the other. I don't want to be moving fast because I'm having difficulty. You see what I'm saying? I want to make sure I have control. So I try to do it at my own pace, but obviously if it's getting too slow and strenuous and it hurts and will affect my form, I might move a little quicker. But hopefully over time I will be able to, you know, lower that gap a bit so that it's all about my own control and my own pace, and not because it's getting painful, for example. So I hope that over time I can bridge that gap. If I weren't to do any exercises or none and just did Tai Chi out of nowhere, I could probably do it slower and be at my own pace. But since this is like a practice for me, I'm trying to get better, trying to push myself a little bit. But at first I didn't. I just practiced the Tai Chi to make sure I got the movements correctly to the way I want them first before I started pushing. Because I want to make sure the form is correct before pushing would make me maybe slip out of my form out of laziness or out of some other reason. So I think that's really important in all exercise. Like if you're doing weights or whatever, you want to make sure the form is correct first before you're, you know, doing too much where you're like, you know, maybe doing it slightly incorrectly, your shoulders are up or whatever, things like that. So what am I doing? Yeah, stretching. So another stretch I do is I start off bent a little because I want to stay grounded, and a lot of Tai Chi I want to stay low too. So for some reason I started doing this, which is slightly bent, and then I stick the leg out. And this is kind of represents how when we're in a form we're low and then we have to take a step out, you know, into the next thing. And this is that basically. It's like, you know, all my weight is on one foot to be able to extend the other one freely without losing my balance. And you know, you can step out however far you want, but for this exercise I want to keep my knees on top of my toes, so I'm not really stepping out too far. It's just really this, and it's just to stretch. So I then kind of just lean over, lean into the stretch a little bit. I have my heel flexed, toes flexed, and I reach down. And again, this is probably for 20 to 30 seconds, and each 10 I try to maybe go down a little bit lower, trying to go from my center, my Jian-10, like, you know, going down like this versus like this. So it's all about like not reaching my head and upper body down into it, but more like the center of my body into it, and try to rest into it through breathing. So like, let's just say this is my last 10, I'd probably breathe into it and go a little lower. Relax into it and go down a little lower. Okay, and then I bring it back. Try to do it with some control, you know, because just like in Tai Chi, we want to do every movement purposefully with control. And so now I do the other leg. So I step out. Okay. You know, sometimes I don't actually pull. Like I said, I'm just focusing on my center and pulling it down. But you definitely can get more of a stretch if you're also pulling. So I actually do kind of pull normally, but I just didn't this time really so much until the very end. Just different variations for you. If you want to push yourself, you know, you can pull so a little bit more. Then I might, you know, hang over a little bit, some more, but with my feet together, and kind of do the same thing. Keep this like one of those stretches for 30 seconds, and going lower each time from your center. You know, I am raining right now. Make sure you're slightly hydrated before you do something like this in the sun, because it's, I imagine you lose a lot of water. And I know I've done this a couple times where I've gotten kind of lightheaded. Sometimes I go out a little bit like this. I don't know why, but I just do. Just a different type of stretch, and I come back in. Maybe I hold the back of my heels, pull my center down. And I find that when I do these stretches and I'm pulling with my arms, the next day I actually feel muscle pain. It's like, oh cool, I did some upper body workout too from pulling. So normally like this, I like to roll myself back up instead of just getting up really quickly, because I'll probably get lightheaded. So I do this really slowly. I keep my knees bent too, and I slowly roll up, hang and breathe, because honestly, I feel like I need it, because I really think I would get a little lightheaded. Really. So if you have to, or if you want to, you don't have to, have a sip of water. And oftentimes if I do that in the middle of a workout, I literally just take a tiny sip. It's really to wet my mouth a little bit. I don't take a big ass gulp or anything like that. I don't know if that means anything or if it's a thing that you should or shouldn't do, but I tend to think in general, as far as like being out in the heat, and for some reason taking small sips makes me feel like I can last longer without water versus like waiting a long time and then taking huge ass gulps when I'm like crazy thirsty. Just, like just once in a while take a little sip, just to wet your mouth a little bit. I think that typically makes me last a lot longer. I don't know, might be in my head. Yeah, so I did those stretches. I may normally do some more or some different stretches. Variation. I just kind of wing it and I kind of do it, but since I'm talking, I'm not really thinking of what I'm doing as much. But in my other videos, you might see me doing some other things or adding some other things. So feel free to add and do whatever else you want to do. Right now, I can't think of anything else, so I'm just going to start. Typically, I start maybe facing or away, but I do both. And I do a minimum of 3-4 times in a row, and I might focus more on one thing one time and then another thing on the next. Maybe the first time is just do it and make sure that you're doing the form correctly, and then the second time I might try to do a little bit more lower, and sometimes I do it the other way around also. I might just do it lower first and then try to work on the form the second time, whatever. But the point is that you do both ways to make sure that you have form and also practice it the way you want it to be. And so technically I would normally need more room than this. This actually isn't quite enough room, so you'll find that I have to adjust some of my movements to be able to stay within this space because there's a door here. And what that means is typically when you start your form, let's just say start here, ideally you want to end back in the same position that you started. So when you do it, you can really kind of pay attention to spacing and know through practice where you need to go and how far to step or all of those things to make sure you end back here. However, when I practice in this space, I try not to modify my movement so much so that I purposely end back in the same spot. Because if I were to do this in another space, I don't want to be practicing moving and doing those modifications in that manner so that the form is kind of out of shape. Like, yes, I'll still end in the same position, but the modifications I made are made for this space, and practicing with other people, if they start copying that, it's not necessarily what is ideal. I want to be able to go the intended areas and spaces that I'm supposed to, and then in my space. So when I practice here, you'll find that I don't end back in this spot. I'll try to do it as much as how I would normally do it, and it might make it so that I end here. But again, I'm modifying to accommodate the space. So if I don't end back in the same space, hopefully, if I did it in a bigger space, I would. So ideally, it would be great to practice in both spaces. But just be aware that ideally you want to end up in the same space, but if you're in a space that you have to modify the movement, if you do it the way you normally would do it to end up in the same space, you may end up in a different space because of the modification. And then over time, when you just know the difference between the two, then maybe you can adjust in a smaller space to modify so that you do end up in the same space, so long as you don't mess up how you normally do it in a bigger space. Does that make sense? Okay, great. So, yeah. So do it for the way you should do it in your space. Whew. Sometimes I do breathing exercises, but typically I do that in the end when I do a cool down. So let's begin. I'll kind of walk through it a little bit. Soften the knees first, shift my weight to the right leg, and I step out with full control. So all the weight's on the right now, and then I shift weight till it's centered. And then I inhale, move up. And this is your opportunity to go as low as you want to when you go down. Again, I'm just trying to mark it to make sure I do it correctly, so I don't really have to push myself right now to go down lower if I wanted to. And this is coming up like this, and I am, you know what, I'm gonna step back a little bit so you can see a little more. This is repulse the monkey. Then you do the left side, repulse the monkey. And then you wanna move on to brush knee twist step. This is not a class, so I'm not doing it how I would normally teach a class. I wouldn't do it like this, but I'm practicing and you're practicing with me, so brush knee twist step. And then you do the other side. So I figure at least I'll kind of tell you what I'm doing if you're doing the same thing. But again, this is not a class. This is not how I would teach it. Okay, and then we would go on to brush wild horse's mane. Again, you want to focus on control and doing what you actually want to do. At least in this time that I'm doing, I'm trying to do it in the manner that I want without worrying about how low I'm getting or whatever. Just really just more about form, getting the form correctly. So that's brush wild horse's mane. And then it goes to wave hands like clouds. Like so. And see, this is a modification here. I'm like going in a circle because I have a door here, so I can't really go the direction I would have otherwise. Try to focus on the hand that is moving on top into the next movement, which is going to be, typically you want to move straight into the next thing very smoothly without any abrupt stops or angles or whatever. Everything should be very smooth. But since I'm talking through it, I'm kind of explaining things a little bit. But you want to go into, I almost said red rooster. Gold rooster stands on one foot. Okay, so I transition into that, like so. And then I do the other side. I feel like sometimes I have a hard time making sure my back is straight when I go down. I feel like I'm really curved. Like when you see me do it from the other side, you'll see it. I'm almost like hunched a little bit. So I'm trying to make sure I'm aware of that, to see if I can make sure I seem a little straighter. So in this, you go into the heel kick with the right leg first. So this is another like scoop. Call this the scoop. So again, I try not to round my back because I feel like I look like I am when I do it. It's probably because there's an imbalance of muscles in my back. You want to look towards the right hand when you do that kick. And also, I don't really normally pause on this. I try to make it as smooth as possible after the kick. And then this, you would move straight into grasp the bird's tail. I want to step here, but it's really dirty here. Oh well. This is grasp the bird's tail. And the door is a little bit in the way here. Switch to the other side. This will be a modification. I'm going to do this at an angle because of the door. So I'm going to step out here. this. Grasp the bird's tail. Make sure you breathe. I'm not really focusing on the breathing pattern as much when I talk, but you should when you get the hang of all the movements. And then this is the end. Scoop and try to keep my upper body straight. Bring the leg in, even out, down. And again, typically, you want to end in the space you started. I moved a couple times and adjusted, so I'm not in the space I started. So now I might, do it again, facing the other direction, for purposes of you following and so that I don't burn my back. See, that was me losing balance. Like, I feel like I'm moving a little quicker than I normally would want to, but I've actually been practicing it like this, so that could be a reason. Whoops. But I guess whichever way you do it, I guess the point is consistency, that you want to keep moving, even if it's faster or if it's slower, as long as you're consistent, that's probably a little bit more important in your practice. Because the whole point with a lot of this yin and yang and Tai Chi is that you're continuing movement with all parts of your body in unison and in balance. There should not be any hard stops or any angles, really. Like, no joint should be completely straight at any time, necessarily. I'm sure there are cases in which there are. But for the most part, everything is super fluid. And soft, yet strong. It's like you're moving through water. everything is in unison. So I actually have a slight knee injury. I've never mentioned it, but it's something that I'm trying to work. I don't want to say work through or work into, but that's a lot of reason why I'm trying to do a little strength training and stretching, because I'm trying to improve my right knee. Which is why sometimes I have decided I shouldn't push myself to go too far down, because I can feel the pain in my right knee, and I'm like thinking maybe that's not a good thing. I should make sure that the strength and the stretching becomes enough in that it will be able to hopefully make that pain not exist any longer, and then I can work on getting a little lower over time. But yeah, I tried getting lower for a while, and it just kind of made it a little worse, and I was like, oh, that's not good. So maybe I need to stop going too low or focusing on that as much. Yeah, so that was twice, and so I might do like 2 more, and then by that time it'll be like 30, 40 minutes. And of course I talked, so that made it longer, but normally I'll probably just do about 2 more times. Do as many times as you want, or as little as you want. So long as you've done it or did something, it's great. Go at your own pace. Try to focus on your body and what you're doing. Like I already feel my right knee right now, so probably shouldn't go down any lower at this point. Shifting weight from one leg to the other. I guess sometimes you have to move faster, because if you get too low, your legs might have to move faster than your hands if your hands are moving very slow. You know, like if your hands are moving this slow, your legs have to match, but your feet might need to move faster. So there's that. Well, should be like this. I think it's probably a good practice to not stop if you mess up. But I guess because I'm trying to show you correctly, even though I'm not actually teaching, I want to show you when I do make a mistake, so that you're not copying me or asking, why did he change that? Is that the way it's supposed to be? Or, you know, just making sure I catch myself so that you don't question yourself. Because I often questioned myself for quite a while. about what I was doing. I don't know if they're there in the end. I inhaled through my mouth. Normally I don't do that. So normally you should be inhaling through your nose. Exhale mouth. I'll probably do one more and then do some cool down exercises. I really need to start practicing somewhere else. I'm really scared I'm gonna end up doing it exactly like this and then not being able to end in the starting position. So we're just gonna do, I got some cool down, some little cool down. Just gonna hang and breathe. Bang my knees slightly. Gonna roll up. Inhale. Want to inhale into your diaphragm. We'll go up. Turn your hands over and push out and exhale. One more. Stay here. Now we're gonna go up, turn over, and exhale. Two more. Let's stay down here. Breathe with your diaphragm, with your stomach. Sorry, I'm drooling. One more. Now you're gonna put, I believe, okay, I might be wrong, but I believe it's for males, right onto your dantian, which is the center of your body, and with your left hand over. And for females, it would be the opposite. I think. I might need to check that. I could be wrong. So remember that. And then just relax. And you're going to swallow your saliva 3 times, but each time you do it, you're going to focus on the saliva traveling down through your throat, through your upper body, torso, down your esophagus, down into your stomach, into your dantian, which is down here. You're gonna visualize it going down 3 times, and take your time, and when you're ready, just open your eyes again. If anyone's finishing that up, continue. But basically, my mom told me that with some of this practice that we're doing, we haven't done any Qi Gong yet, which I would like to add, but with these breathing exercises, Tai Chi, all of this, actually something about your saliva at this juncture, I guess, of this practice is concentrated in a manner that's very beneficial to your body. And so you swallow it to give you the benefits. I do it. So that's why you're doing it. And so after, maybe shake yourself out, do some additional stretching that you wish to do, that you want to do, loosen back up, back to the real world. And if this were a class or something like that, I would normally end with like a thank you or whatever, but you do this, and you might say, 谢谢老师, which means thank you teacher or whatever, if you were being taught, or 师傅 or 师傅, one of those, which means either teacher or master or whatever. I am neither, but anyways, I do this as a practice anyway, like thank you, because this is heart. I think this is heart, and this is friendship, I believe, or is this friendship and this is heart? But in either way, when you bring them together, it's mutual respect. Heart and friendship, mutual respect. That's what it is. So that's it. Thanks so much for practicing with me today. Ooh, it's been like an hour. Bye.